Welcome, everybody. This is Richard Kuhns, author of How to Get Your Life Back from Morgellons, Chronic Lyme, and Other Skin Parasites. Welcome to the Morgellons event of the week. I doubt that you'll find anything in the universe like this call. It's the only one. It's a place where you are welcome to come, share your experiences. It is a working call. Anybody who has bumped into this program by accident through YouTube or whatever, this is for the people in our program. We are not here to convince anybody to do this program. We're here to get results, and we do get results with the King Diet, the diet that I discovered years ago that saved my life and countless other people's lives as well. We're going to start today with me as my co-host Robin, and we have also Margie, our resident resiliency expert, who is going to, Robin and Margie are going to go, about qualities of resiliency. Why do we need to be resilient? Robin, you have an idea why we need to be resilient when we're dealing with skin parasites?
Yes, I do. So,
Tell me, why would this be interesting to anybody on this call?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, Richard. When we are struggling against all kinds of skin parasites and Morgellons, there's no quick fix. There's no thing you do one time and bam, you're done. And there's no one thing you do. It's multiple things on multiple levels. You call it driving a car with 4 clutches. And it wears people out. They become terrified, they become scared, they become anxious, they don't think they're ever going to get through it, they're worried they're going to die, and if we don't practice the qualities of resiliency, our mental health suffers dramatically.
Very well said, yeah. So introduce Margie and let's get resilient, because without resiliency, what Robin said was very important. There's just no quick fix. If you found a quick fix, you don't have skin parasites to the degree many people do. The degree that we're dealing with are people who are living in 24/7 hell, lesions over their body. Not everybody necessarily, but itching and biting and sensations and something that has taken over their lives. So if you're not in that level, well, you're not, a quick fix could work for you. But when you're at this level where we've come from, there's no quick fix. And we're going to talk about some of those quick fixes later on, that the rabbit holes people search for. We're going to talk about them later on. Okay, so back to you, Robin.
Okay, so I got to know Margie a little bit when I first joined this Morgellons call, and I was really struggling. I mean, really struggling when I wanted to burn my house down and there was no light at the end of the tunnel, and Margie brought that light. I mean, Margie is a qualified nurse, and she's had training. I'm sorry, Margie, I forget who the training was with, but she's an expert in this stuff.
Herbert Benson.
And she is amazing, and her qualities, I remember one of the first calls I tuned into was about humor and the importance of laughter. And I spent the whole week after that call looking up jokes online, because and then telling them to myself.
That's the weird part. Your cat wouldn't speak, huh?
Right. Well, I told it to the cat, too, but he didn't laugh.
It's an isolating disease. We don't have people often to tell us jokes.
Right. I was pretty isolated. So, but just smiling, I mean, there's studies, the muscles in your face, when you smile, it does things to your sense of well-being and your body and your endorphins. And Margie is a master of all that stuff. And I'm so grateful she's on the call doing these qualities with us again, because they are so important. They're a lifeline. They are a lifeline to getting well. And so, welcome, Margie.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Richard. It's always a honor to be called to ask to speak and share. And it's the bless and the mess. Now, Richard talked about resiliency and being able to find light in the darkness. One of the ways, a very, very potent and powerful part of any suffering is being able to help others who have similar suffering. You know, that's a huge part of resiliency. And I think those who have suffered deeply are probably, for the most part, very compassionate people, because we know what it's like to suffer. And we also know that we're imperfect. If anything, I mean, we can find very humorous things in this illness, you know, because things are so ridiculous. And, you know, I've recently become, I'm feeling low today, to tell you the truth. And for good reason. I've become reinfected, you know, and that's a horror show. And Richard talked about, you know, practicing resiliency. Resiliency is the end result of surviving. It's the end result of getting through difficult times. It's the end result of moving through suffering and getting to the other side. You can't help but become more resilient if you are able to let go of resentment. The thing that kills resiliency is resentment. So if you get pulled into negativity, if you get pulled into resentment, anger, and there is a legitimate release of anger, and it's human experience when you have loss, but to marinate in it and to spew it out all over the place on a regular basis, that does really bad things to your immunity. So resiliency is growth. Resiliency is when a little toddler falls 10 times before he stands up. So what I'd like to do is move forward to the first quality of resiliency that you can practice to keep you up in a good, positive mind state. And that is faith and spirituality. And that is such a common denominator with resilient people. And they do not have to be, I'm not saying religious, I'm saying spiritual. That's saying having faith in something bigger than my ego, bigger than my understanding, believing and understanding that life is continuously changing. So I really don't know what's going on. That's a fact, you know. And one of my favorite phrases when something hits, and this is what I've learned through the years, is to pause and say, huh, that's interesting, rather than just jumping to conclusions, going down that path, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in this forever. It's much better to be in the state of wonder, being in the state of wonder. Oh, huh, that person just was cruel to me, seemingly. That's interesting, you know, without reacting, without getting pulled into it. So, and how do we do that? By having a spiritual connection, knowing that there's something so much greater than ourselves. I see spirituality in so many different ways. Spirituality is right here with Nicole and I'm reading the names here, Chris and David and Gwendolyn and Miri and Christina and all the Diane, all the people that are here today. You're part of my spiritual network in this moment, and I know I'm not alone. And having fellowship and social connection is another quality of the qualities of resiliency. We need each other. I can't do this alone. I'm exhausted right now, I'm a very vain woman, and I don't have a drop of makeup on because I've just been cleaning and doing everything I can to try to get back to my better state. But, you know, I want to just be into the, okay, you know, what I said, when I took my quiet time, one of the practices of practicing spirituality is, for me, and what I advocate, is taking a quiet time. And if you're in the middle of a horrifically infected environment, your number one goal is to get one room clean, and then you can sit there and have a little bit of quiet time every day. It doesn't have to be anything major, just quietly breathing and connecting to whatever your experience of spirituality is, whatever you think. It could be a deity, it could be a Christ, it could be a Hindu deity, it could be anything that you feel you connect to, you can feel larger with, you can get help from. Though that is connecting the first quality of resiliency, and it's the quality of resiliency I think we need to practice on a daily basis, just to keep our head above the water, to keep ourselves in a positive state, and keep ourselves humble. And we don't know why we're going through this, but faith is the other piece of it, and having faith that there is something on the other end. There's going to be something good that we can't imagine. I've lived a portion of life, and I can't tell you how many times I've been in very dark places in faith, and it's just these little miracles have happened in those situations, and God always leaves me a little bit of a cosign, you know. You know, there's like a little tiny symbol that happens afterwards when things work out, and I was like, oh yeah, you were here the whole time. So what I'd like to talk about today in regard to that is a study. Some of the training I had, I was a long distance runner in my 20s, and then I became a meditator and a yogi in my 30s, and I was trained to teach yoga, and I'm also a registered nurse, and I taught at Harvard. I was lucky enough to, and that was a God situation, but I called the Mind Body Institute, and this woman had a Rolodex on her desk she was on the Rolodex for all like the Today Show. I mean, she was a big name Mind Body person, and I was just doing something gutsy, and I was in between my calls, going out to see patients, and I wanted to work with patients, and I called this woman, and I just left a message and said, hey, I'm Margie Canty, I'm an RN and a yoga teacher, and I'd really love to work with you in any way that you might have something for me. And she sent me back a message, and the message was, well, as a matter of fact, our yoga teacher resigned today, and we wanted to hire a nurse. Can you send us our resume? I just ran out of the building. I said, see ya, I gotta go. And I sent the resume over, and I got hired. But those are the God things that happen in life. You know, if we just stay connected. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, meditation can be really hard if you're symptomatic. And at the Mind Body Institute, which is part of Harvard Medical School, we did clinical trainings for people all over the world. I was one of the contributors. And one of the things we learned about is this fellow by the name of Pennebaker. And he was a scientist who did studies, and he studied journaling trauma. And what he found, and what the health correlates show, is that if you're able to get your feelings down on paper, particularly the difficult experiences, you don't carry it inside. And you don't consciously carry those things inside, especially with this illness, you know. you go in your car and you're being attacked again, even though you thought it was clean, or you pick up a piece of laundry and it's horrible, or, you know, it's just such a, it's a nightmarish, let's face it, nightmarish illness. And so you're constantly getting sort of attacked in a way. And every time you just suck it up and keep moving and try to find solutions. Well, what Pennebaker found is that if you just get it on paper, if you write it down, he found that there were absolutely health correlates. People's immune systems got boosted. Their symptoms got better faster. And you don't have to, and it's not a daily practice, but every once in a while, just set your timer and just start writing down and see what comes out. And it might be an experience that, you know, as people who have this illness, we can't, I don't know about you, but I don't feel comfortable whining about it to my coworkers or to, you know, people, you know, who aren't very close. And even I only have maybe 2 people in my life that know about this in detail, because I don't think it's a wise thing to do. So we do carry this inside, you know, because we have each other, but also it helps. What I'm hearing is it's something about what I'm reading and what we found out with Pennebaker's studies is that when you write it, it's a mind-body experience. It's different than speaking, putting things out in the air. When you're writing about it, you're connecting with yourself. And sometimes you can grieve, and sometimes you can let some of that trauma out. And there is the light, and there your brain functions better, and there your immunity gets a boost. And, you know, the programs there were cancer programs, HIV programs, medical symptom reduction programs, infertility programs, cardiac programs. I taught in all of those programs, and some of those people had pretty intense symptoms, and it was part of the protocol for every single one of those. So I want to put that out as part of your spiritual practice. And it's, again, it would be really a downer to do it every day. Don't do it every day. But I want to just give you that and put it in your tool bag as another way of healing. And that's a mind-body practice. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. That was wonderful. Margie is the reason why we are all here. She is the person who actually instigated getting this program together a few years ago, and was instrumental in getting us here every week for you guys. So thank you very much, Margie.
I just want to leave my phone number, and I need you guys just as much as you need me. It's 617-269-0846. 617-269-0846. This is Eastern Standard Time. And my email is Canty, C-A-N-T-Y, 203@gmail.com. I would welcome calls or emails. Thank you.
Great. If you're around later on when we do the stress management segment, would you do the belly laugh with us?
I'm working in I work in a very difficult, I think I explained this to you, Richard. I work in a medical advice line, and I'm working for the next 2 evenings, so I'm not interested in staying late tonight. Before COVID, there were 30 calls in the queue. After COVID, there was 300 calls in the queue. So we're having a big deluge of calls again. It's going to be really difficult.
Okay. Well, another time then.
Yeah, another time I'd love to.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody call you, Chris, with any questions they'd like to ask Margie while she's here?
I had a comment I wanted to make.
Yes.
About, I loved everything you said, Margie, and it's kind of, this is like a bridge between what Richard was talking about or didn't talk about and what you were talking about. And what I have found lately, because lately I'm very thin-skinned and So I'm using my spirituality time to pray to become a kinder, more compassionate person. And if I wasn't reactionary, I wouldn't need to do that, right? But because of that, I'm growing spiritually, and it's like a wonderful. That's how God uses the things that are hard and tough and not fun, and He turns them into a blessing. And so I know that I'm becoming a kinder, more compassionate person because the stuff I'm going through has been rubbing me the wrong way, but I'm turning to my spirituality in it. And so it's very reaffirming to hear the things that you said today. I really appreciate that.
Getting it out on paper, because especially if you're a caregiver and you're giving all the time, it's very different than even sharing with your partner or sharing someone else. You're being your own best friend, and no one can really get it like you can. And getting it out, sometimes you'll grieve a little bit, sometimes you'll shed a couple of tears, but it feels so tender. It's your own little child, your inner child. And then you walk, for me, my experience is when I do it, not all the time, but I do it occasionally, I don't do it all the time, I walk away and I'm lighter, like my chest is open. I'm lighter, I'm not carrying, I didn't even know I was carrying that inside. And Robin and I talked about how we can get angry and, and I think it's mostly because we're not taking time for ourselves. Just a little tiny, mini times for ourselves.
Right.
Thank you, Margie.